Dates. Okay, so we're going to talk about Basya, the daughter of Pharaoh, not to be confused with Basya, the wife of Shlomo, who's also a daughter of Pharaoh. Basya literally means daughter of God. Hashem named her such because he said, "You called Moshe your son, even though he was not. You're not literally my daughter, but I shall call you so." We see this in different words written. These are the sons of Basya, daughter of God. And it's also in Vayikra. I found some interesting midrashim on Basya that I never heard before. So the first one is, there's a medrash called Medrash Tapayos, based on a Zohar that says Basya and Zipporah were twin sisters.
Wow.
So how is this possible? Apparently they were both adopted from the marketplace as foundlings.
I did hear that.
One by Pharaoh, Basya, and one by Yisro, which was Zipporah. Now, I found this so strange.
I did hear that. I heard that. Mamash, maybe in the last year I heard that.
I've never heard this before. And I said to myself, but that's so weird. And Moshe basically married his mother. Then my husband pointed out it wasn't his mother, it was his adopted mother. So I said, well, then I guess it's really true that we do marry our parents. I don't know how old they were. I did not see any age listed anywhere for Basya. Maybe when I look in Squirrel, they'll give me an age, but I did not see an age for Basya. Okay, so back to the story of Basya. We know that Basya saved Moshe from the Nile after Yocheved sent him afloat to save him from Pharaoh's soldiers. But did we ever wonder why Basya was at the Nile in the first place? Did we ever look deeper into the story? Why was she so willing to go against her father's decree to save a male baby? I mean, she was the daughter of the king. So there's lots of different explanations. We're going to start with the basic idea here. That when it says she went to the Nile, it really means that she went down to bathe, and she was upon the river. According to Basya, she was in the river, because it's coming to teach us that she sent everyone away, so she could have privacy. What is with the word upon? And here it shows us control, that she controlled the area. So that's what Amenhotep brings upon the river. So again, this is Amenhotep. It's talking about Basya going down to the Nile, and it's teaching us that she had control over the entire area.
Good morning. Good morning.
So just a quick recap, we're talking about Basya, daughter of Pharaoh, and there's a medrash called Medrash Tapayos, based on the Zohar that says Tapayos. Yeah, saying that she and Zipporah were twin sisters. They were adopted in the marketplace. Zipporah, as in Moshe's wife, daughter of Yisro. Okay.
Which marketplace in which country?
It does not say. It just says that they were adopted as foundlings in the marketplace, one by Pharaoh, one by Yisro, because of their incredible beauty.
It could be in Egypt, because
Could have been in Egypt.
was his advisor.
Yes. I would assume it wasn't Egypt, but it doesn't actually say which one.
And they were twins? No.
Yes, they were twins.
Twins.
Yeah. I don't know how old they were. Yes, Moshe did end up marrying Pharaoh, looked exactly like his adopted mother, we assume. Cool, I don't know what cousins say, just that they were twin sisters adopted as foundlings in the marketplace. Right, and then we're looking into why Basya rescued Moshe, why she went down to the Nile, and we said that Amenhotep brings that the word that the pasuk says upon the river instead of in the river to teach us that she sent everybody away. And control over the entire area. The pasuk says upon the river instead of in the river.
Because it was like floating, right?
Moshe was floating.
Right.
So that Amenhotep brings on this word upon, that it's just to show us that she sent everybody away and that she was in control. So now, why did she actually go down to the Nile? There's a couple different midrashim here. According to the Gemara in Sota, she went down to Toivel in order to convert. In other words, she was already keeping the laws of, like the Jews were, whatever that means in that time, because they hadn't received the Torah yet. But she wanted to get rid of the idol worship from her father's house. She was following the rules like the Jews did to whatever extent that is. She went down to cleanse herself from the idolatry of her father's house. Chasam Sofer brings down here, following, she went down upon the river. Why now? Medrash says to wash off idolatry of her father and convert. Again, why now? A new king rose over Egypt, right? This is Hitler, the new Pharaoh, who didn't know Yosef. The Egyptians still had gratitude for Yosef and Yaakov, who'd stopped the famine, and they would have refused to enslave, kill the children of those who can control the Nile.
Because it was a new face or whatever, it was the new one or not one.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was the daughter of the new one.
In theory, yes. Most people say that the new Pharaoh was just
The same one.
the same one.
Yeah,
He just,
yeah.
chose to forget.
But in case he wasn't.
Yes. So Pharaoh made wise against them. In other words, he made himself into a new god and to be relied upon to stop the famine. As in, why were the Egyptians willing to go along with Pharaoh's decrees, right? Because Pharaoh said, I'm a god. I can stop any future famines. You don't need to worry about Yaakov and Yosef. We don't know who they were, whatever, like, it doesn't matter. Basya still remembered Yaakov and Yosef, and she still had gratitude towards them. She knew better, and she went to wash off the filth of her father's new religion. As in, she didn't agree with what her father was doing. She didn't want to follow her father, and so she went down to the Nile to become like a Jew.
The Egyptians have physical idols, or they just
According to the history books, they did. I don't know back during the time of Pharaoh and the enslavement, but if you ever learn about Egyptian history, they worship the sun and cats and all different types of things. They have
live animals or idols.
No, I think they had salim.
I
It
think
seems
they
to
had
me in
both.
their museum they show
I think
no.
they had both.
vessels.
Okay. But it's according to the Pirkei Eliezer that she wanted to make it official that she wanted to live like a Jew, and she wanted to live by the laws that she was already living by. She was more righteous than her father. All right. It could be that she was actually Jewish from birth because she was adopted. We don't know. It never says that. It never brings that. It's just a possibility that there's something there, right? Okay. So that's one explanation. The second explanation is that she had leprosy and went down to the Nile to soothe her skin. Okay. When she touched Moses' basket with her outstretched arm, she was immediately healed, and therefore she took pity on him and loved him. Right? So that's second explanation, leprosy. And she went down to bathe to soothe her skin on the Nile, and she touched Moses' basket, she was healed, therefore she took pity on him and loved him. The Targum Yonasan brings a very similar idea, but he says that all the Egyptians were struck with boils and scars.
When?
Doesn't say. This is before the plagues had happened, obviously, because Moshe was a baby. She says that they were struck with boils and scars. This is why she went down to the Nile. She wanted to cool down by the side of the Nile. Okay. And the fourth explanation is according to the Medrash Haggadah on Bereshith. She thought the divine inspiration that the Jewish Redeemer was going to be raised by her, so she would stroll next to the Nile every morning and night. And therefore, when Hashem facilitated her finding Moshe, she rejoiced greatly. So according to this Medrash, she had some form of Ruach HaKodesh, some form of Nevuah.
She was looking to.
Yes. She was looking to save the Redeemer, because Pharaoh's
Where
astrologers,
was it? Isn't it
Medrash Haggadah on Bereshith.
on Bereshit? Okay.
Nope, on Bereshith. It's brought down. Because we know that Pharaoh's astrologers kept saying, that it's gonna be a boy, it's Jewish, he can be a Redeemer, and then they got confused with Egyptian or Jewish because he was raised by an Egyptian. So she was aware of what was going on in the palace, obviously, according to this Medrash. And so she, again, was showing her righteousness. She wanted to save the Redeemer. She didn't know who the Redeemer was. She didn't know when she would find him. She didn't know who would come out, but she would walk by the side of the Nile every morning, and every night, because the babies were being thrown into the Nile, right? So, okay. So it says that the Hashem caused the angel Gabriel to strike Moshe, so that he would call out and rouse Basya's mercy.
Shema.
Hashem sent the angel Gabriel to strike Moshe, cause him to cry out, therefore to rouse Basya's mercy.
Mhm.
This is a running thing throughout the story, that Basya showed great mercy. Okay?
How was it her father accepted her? Doesn't say that anywhere?
No, doesn't talk about her father at all. The Midrash really. So we've been given reasons why, such as she was healed, she recognized he was holy. There's one idea that says that when she picked him up, she saw that he was circumcised and there was this light around him, Shekinah. So she figured he must be a Jewish boy and he's holy and whatnot. She had some form of divine inspiration in regards to being that one would raise the Jewish Redeemer. So the Emek Dever actually brings that the Pasuk calls Moshe and that are a youth to show us that he was 3 months old, and he brings that it is harder to reject a 3-month-old than a newborn. Harder to reject a 3-month-old than a newborn.
They're cuter.
I guess they're cuter. I'm not really
They
sure.
are, they are,
I mean,
yeah. Definitely are, yeah. They're interesting, the old ones, but they're like.
right? They're kind of wrinkly and but
Everybody's a nard. Somebody who's 50 is a nard.
Yeah.
3
they
months
like
is
to
a
use the word
nard.
nar and twins and things. But yeah, so apparently Emek Dever brings it.
Last
he
week
was
Benjamin was the nard.
Yes. But we know that Moshe was 3 months old at this point. We know this because of Yochevet's story. Okay, so now we have this decree, Pharaoh made this decree, and it's not just against Jewish babies anymore, it's against Egyptian babies as well. All right, her handmaiden to her Basya said to her, "You were the daughter of the ruler." Well, it might be okay for the others to laugh and ignore this rule. It's to her little mistress, it is the way of the world that the king makes a decree, and not all people uphold it, but his children, the people of his household, do uphold it. And you are transgressing. It's a midrash, I believe.
Okay.
So immediately Gabriel came down and he struck them into the ground. He battered them, it says, battered them into the ground.
The handmaidens. Does that mean he killed him?
Yes.
Okay.
Then she's all alone.
She's really got a problem.
But apparently he didn't actually leave her all alone. There is an idea in the Gemara in Sota that he left her with one of them. Why? Because it wasn't fitting for a princess to be left alone. And where do we see this? Because it continues on to say, and she sent her handmaiden and took him. Therefore Hashem sent, right? So
Is the handmaid that picks him up, or
In
she
the
might-
singular.
in the singular.
I understand that, yeah. But for her
Well,
to
literally Basya stretched out her arm, right, and brought in the basket. But she was still left with a handmaiden. And there's 2 different explanations of whether she sent out her handmaiden,
Or
doing
Amma.
her arm, Amma. That's what we're gonna do right now. Smarty pants. Okay.
You know what I heard this year? That was real, where it says, when you daven in the morning, and before, I think it's right before Shirat Hayam, and ראו את היד הגדולה אשר עשה השם במצרים. ראו את היד הגדולה, and one of the pirushim was היד הגדולה, was the yad of Basya. וראו את היד הגדולה של השם שהוא עשה במצרים, that he did that to Basya's arm.
Yes.
Oh,
Just
wow.
something new I think.
Yes. Okay. So really, it's a discussion between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemiah and the Gemara whether he killed them all or left her with one. Why? Because what it says she sent out her masa either means her arm or one of the handmaidens, right? That we were just saying this, that Gabriel left alive. Why would he leave her one alive? Because I said she was a princess, not fitting to be left alone as a princess. You should always have someone. Okay, so according to Penina, it was her arm. Why did it use Amasa instead of Yada? as in, why is it using the word for handmaiden instead of her hand?
Uzeroa. You know,
But
Yeah.
that way, the Amma is
the
here and
Amma is
Zerah
from
is
here to here, from the elbow
Amma is
to.
here to here. That's what she means to it.
Exactly. So this is what they're gonna say is that so it's to hint at her arm miraculously stretched out far enough to reach the basket that Moshe was in. And they asked according to the said hand, let it right hand. It didn't break. That's why they're not using yada, they're using amasa to show us that it didn't break, that her arm stretched. And this is why it's a forearm, right? This is what we call ama, because it's stretched. And then there's a pasuk in Tehillim on this that, and we're taught until you find the teeth of the wicked ones, you broke Tehillim 3:8 about according to Rashi on this pasuk.
Which pasuk? How
It's
do you-
Parak 3, pasuk 8.
Here, three, Gimel.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all Shalom, no?
I don't know, but according to Rashi, it's about don't read broke, but read it instead as stretched. It's just very
Let's look at the
technical.
words and give them understanding.
Gimel.
You can
Chet. Chet, Kuma Hashem Oshienu Elokai, Ki Ekita et Kol Evelechi Shined Hashem Shibaita.
This is what my husband sent to me.
He said 3:8.
It could be he wrote it down wrong, I'm not sure. But
Maybe
this,
8:3.
it says the teeth of the wicked ones you broke it. Basically.
Shined Hashem Shibaita. Can. Okay, so what does that have to do?
So according to Rashi and it's it's about that we didn't just didn't just break. And Moshe, how did Moshe defeat right? His arms stretched. He was Moshe was 10 amma tall, and his arms were able to stretch and whatnot. And there's a whole thing about that.
Moshe, not.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Okay.
They're giving us another example of where.
Can,
yes,
where the Amma
exactly.
gets-
Mhm.
So Basya brings the basket with Moshe in out of the Nile. When she looks at the baby, she sees that he's surrounded by a glow, the Shekhinah, whatever, something, some sort of light, right? And then he's already circumcised. I think he was born circumcised, if I'm not correct.
Mhm.
And she realizes that he must be a Jewish baby. And names him Moshe, which he means he who draws out. His name was retained and used by Torah exclusively to remind us of Basya's kindness. Remember, Moshe has 10 names, including the names that his father and mother gave. They're never ever used. We're told them, but they're never used. The only names ever used is Moshe. All right, so
What strange names, Yitzchak, Yaakov,
Uh-huh.
Moshe,
and we use them all the time.
only Abraham sounds like something normal. You know, like, what?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so now Basya has a baby. She picks him up. He starts to cry. So she says he must be hungry. One handmaiden to fetch a wet nurse. She brings her an Egyptian wet nurse. Moshe refuses to nurse, and they go through all the Egyptian women. All the nursing women, he refuses. Why? Because his mouth was gonna speak holy words, and it wouldn't be fitting. So Miriam now steps out of the shadows. Remember, she's been watching the whole time in the shadows from the reeds.
But they're still by the.
They're still
they
by the
checked out
Nile,
all the nursing mothers while they're standing by the river.
apparently.
Okay.
Okay. So, and she offers to bring a Jewish nurse. She returns with her mother Yocheved. It says here about Miriam that she went Alma. Not that Basya sent her, which she did, but that she went quickly, mysterious, according to Rabbi Lazar, and with all her alam strength. So
Oh, her
strength,
alum.
alam, ayin lam and mem. Okay,
It's something for youth, I guess.
Alma.
Elam, Alma would be a youth. So I guess it's it could be, have some connotation.
So according to Rabbi Elazar, it's Zerus and strength.
It's what?
Zerus, quickness,
Zerus.
and strength. Okay. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmani said she alam hid her words. In words, she didn't say she was his sister, that she was bringing his mother. This is the Rashi.
Elam, like she was crushed.
Yeah.
Ah, Nelam. Nelam.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So Basya tells Yocheved to take Moshe using the words ilachi this, take the child away. He is yours is also the same word. Hilachi, okay, yud lamed, yud chaf yud. Okay, means yours as well. So it's not just take, but it's also yours. And she said this to Yocheved after she showed her Moshe that he was completely perfect, all his limbs were intact, his fingers, toes, when you check a baby, right? Usually it's a newborn, but you check to make sure that there's nothing wrong, 10 toes, 10 fingers, etc. So she kind of did this examination of her Moshe. She's like, perfect. So she said to Yocheved, take him away, but see how perfect he is and bring him back to me the same way. Okay. Yocheved protests that she's afraid of Basya's father's decree and cannot take the baby. She tells Yocheved not to be afraid as she's nursing this child for her. They say that when Basya used these words, Hilachi, that it was some form of nevuah. She didn't realize she was prophesizing, but that she was because Moshe was really Yocheved's baby. Okay. So according to the pasuk and Rabbi Chama Bar Chanina, she's even pays her a wage to nurse the child. Why? So,
I mean, I guess that's causing her.
but remember, she's a ruler. She can just
She can
command
do
it. She doesn't need to
Command
pay her.
You get better services if you pay. Whatever.
Okay, so the Emek Dever asked here, why does it bring that Yocheved received a wage? So there are two reasons. One is not enough the righteous that their lost objects be returned to them, but also they should be paid for them. This is going back to the Gemara that says that she was paid also on the pasuk. And Emek Dever also points out that it is the way of the wealthy to pay for something, even though they could just order it. I read.
Gracious, some sort of graciousness.
Yeah, I said it kind of depends on the leader and on
Fits
the
in with
person.
her.
It
Okay.
fits in with
Person
Basya,
depends
but
on
not
the
her
person.
father, right? Like it really just depends on who it is. Some leaders will, of course, pay their people, and some will not, right? So, Pharaoh was married to a woman named Queen of France. Elfranes. He was married to this woman. Okay. And this is a medrash, and we learn this from the story where that Moshe is 3 years old. He's sitting in Basya's lap. They're in a conference room, basically sitting around a table with all his Pharaoh's ministers. Moshe gets off Basya's lap, walks over to Pharaoh, takes the crown off his head, puts it on his own head. Bilam stands up, says he must be a Jewish child.
Who said that?
Bilam.
Bilam.
Okay. So at this point, he's 3 years old, according to this midrash. But there's another midrash in Shmos Rabbah that says he grew up in Pharaoh's household up until 24 months. He was 2 years old. I don't really have an answer. That might never ask how can you call 24 months grown. Runs down the idea that Moshe grew faster than usual. And he grew to be 10 amas tall, a giant 30 to 40 feet. Why did he grow up faster than usual? Because Pharaoh was unaware that Moshe was born during the time of his decree. So it would make it seem that Moshe was born before the decree went into effect.
Mhm. Wait, so you have it also lived in the palace if she was.
It does not say that. I don't know into what age
the
he
back
was
door
nursed.
nurse and went home,
Yeah,
came back.
it just says that he was 2 years old basically in Pharaoh's palace.
He
This
didn't stay with her during that period. She was there.
We all think that he did, but this medrash is bringing that he was 2, maybe 3 years old.
Maybe he nursed until then, and that
Yeah.
was when he arrived.
Maybe
Yeah.
it could be. But the commentators asked, "What do you mean he was grown up at 24 months old? Like, what are you trying to say?" So Emek Dever is coming to explain to us that that he was very, very tall. He's going to be very tall, 10 almost tall. Which is
Already?
He can't
I'm
be.
not
He's
sure.
sitting on Pharaoh's.
he's sitting in
lap.
Basya's lap, so probably not, but he was taller than he should have been for his age and more mature, basically. Right? So we know the story, right? He takes the crown, Bilam cries out, he must be a Jewish child. Pharaoh looks around the table and asks the ministers, do you all agree? All but one, who was taken over by an angel, say, yes, he must be correct. advisor, it doesn't say who was taken over by this angel again, doesn't say which one, probably Gabriel, I'm assuming, proposes the test. Does he just like shiny objects? You know, he's 2, maybe 3, right? He just likes shiny objects. Bring a coal and a diamond. Which one is he gonna choose? Right? And we all know that Moshe really wanted a diamond, but the angel came and moved his hand to the coal, brought it to his lips, and therefore he now spoke with a stutter. Okay? So I kind of asked, Pharaoh never realized that Moshe was born after the decree. How can he agree with Balaam, right? Like, Balaam is standing there and he must be the Redeemer, but how is that possible? He was
Who
born
said, maybe just
Bilam.
he's a Jewish. He's from the Jews.
from the Jews, but he said he must be the Redeemer.
Hi,
He must be a Jew. He's taking after his forefathers. He's evil like them. He must be the Redeemer. Like,
he wants to be the king.
so my answer to this is that Pharaoh never stopped being nervous that the Jews would rebel and seek their freedom. What we're supposed to learn from this is that it doesn't matter what we do in terms of natural Hishtadlis. Hashem has a plan and he wants it to happen, and it's going to happen. The only way to change that plan is through tefillah, which Pharaoh doesn't realize at this point. He thinks everything's going according to what he wants. I know this is not true. Okay? At this point, this is what. Okay. We all know that the boys died. The firstborn males all died, but in the last plague, do you know the firstborn females also died?
No.
Where do we learn this from? It says that Basya and Pharaoh came to Moshe on the night of the plague, and Basya complained to Moshe. Is this how you repay me for raising you? Is this how you repay the good that I did for you, that I raised you and supported you and bring upon me in the house of my father this evil? Moshe responds to her, have any of the plagues affected you? Personally? No. And he said to her, you should be dead. The reason you're not dead is because I prayed for you. You are a daughter of the firstborn of your mother, and therefore you should be dead. But because I prayed for you, you have not been affected.
Where is that? In which midrash?
It's Medrash HaYashan. So Moshe acted as an advocate for Basya. So, and she said to Moshe back after he says to her, nothing has affected you. You haven't been affected by anything that's happened. Like, you have no right to complain. What will be left for me when I see the king, my brothers, and all his house and slaves in this evil, when all their firstborns die with the rest of the firstborns of Egypt? And Moshe said to her, for your brothers and his household and his slaves, the Egyptian families, did not listen to the word of Hashem. Therefore, this evil comes upon them. They're being punished, right? This is the whole thing that's happening. All Egyptians are being punished because they could have rebelled against Pharaoh and said, this is not right. Remember Yaakov, remember Yosef. They could have changed things. They didn't. So they also deserve to be punished. So there is a question that is brought up in halacha. Why don't girls fast on our Pesach? Firstborn girls. And the postscript asks this question. There's not really an answer, just that it didn't really become a thing. And Basya Yosef actually brings down that really women should fast, but we just don't. It just never became a thing.
My son always tells me I should.
You tell him it's not a thing. It's
I
not.
tell him.
It's never become an accepted part of our Masorah, and therefore we don't do it. It could be because we're busy with children. It could be we're busy getting ready for Pesach. We're weaker in general. There's lots of reasons why women don't fast. We also don't necessarily have to fast on your site. There's lots of different explanations. But the poskim don't bring a specific reason because they don't know a specific reason. Other than it just never became part of the Masorah. Okay. So yay, the Jews are free. We're on our way out of Egypt. We take all the.
And the reason that Pharaoh had to stay to see what was happening, right?
Yes, he had to be one to free the Jews.
To the
Right, so, Paro asked Moshe at this point, how do I stop this? Or Basya asked. Moshe turns around and says, say as loud as you can that the Jews are free.
Say,
As loud as you can, the Jews are free to go. And Paro does, and Hashem, makes his voice echo throughout the land, and the Jews are freed. That's the end, right? We're now on our way out of Egypt. We're now full of riches. We have all the cover of the tribes, including Nossi, on our way out of Egypt. Hashem then says, in regards to Paro and the Egyptians, the following: You sent out the fathers, but my sons you cast into the Nile. Therefore, I shall cast you into the sea and destroy you. But I will take your daughter and let her inherit unaided. Okay? This shows us that Basya left Egypt and she went with the Jewish people into the desert and later into Eretz Yisrael. How can we read that she married to the Eretz Yisrael, but Moshe didn't? The women in the desert were righteous and did not sin. This is also true of the women of Egypt, called the Nashim Zikanos, and this is why, we survived, right? We didn't go all the way down to the sea level. We only made it to 49 because women were righteous and they lifted this up, and they did not die in the desert like the men. This is according to Rokea. Furthermore, according to Derech Suta, she was one of the 9 righteous people who entered Canaan alive.
Where's that written?
Derech Suta. She's on that list of 9 people.
No,
but
then I know she was him.
I think he's the one who brings the list. There might be more than one list, but this list is brought fairly often from him.
Okay.
Right. So Basya is mentioned in Divrei Hayam in Chronicles. No one really learns it, but she is mentioned there as the wife of Merid, who was married. Merid is Caleb ben Yefuna. Merid is Caleb ben Yefuna. But we know that Caleb married Miriam,
Yeah,
but apparently he married Basya. So I don't know if after Miriam died or at the same time. It doesn't clarify that.
what
It
do they
seems
call
to
it, married?
tell you why in a second. It does seem that they were married at the same time because it does bring Miriam also into Miriam as his wife, but unclear.
a lot of people have more than one wife.
Yes. There, this son she bore him. Why did she marry Caleb? It says that since Caleb didn't go along with his spies, he rebelled against them. So it's called married. Just like Bachi rebelled against the council of her father, let the rebel come and marry the rebel. Okay. One sage says it didn't specify who said it, just said one sage. So it must be someone in the Gemara or some commentator. It doesn't say. He saved the flock, but she saved the shepherd. So he saved Klal Yisrael by not going along with the other spies, and she saved Moshe. Okay. It brings another name for Basya, that she was called Hayudia, Jewish, for Avigador, which is one of the 10 names of Moshe. This is bringing us proof that we raise a child. When we raise a child who's not ours by birth, we are still called their mother. Right? This is a
What did
common
it say she raised who?
Avigador, which is one of the names of
Avigdor.
Moshe.
Right.
Okay, it's just coming to teach us yet again. We've learned this in the past that when you raise someone as your own, you're considered to be their parent, if you're not theirs by birth. And then it says these are the children of Basya, daughter of Paro, Devarim 1:4-18. Rabbi Yeshua of Sinchanim in the name of Rabbi Levi said, Akadosh Baruch Hu said to Basya, daughter of Paro, Moshe was not your son. I said at the beginning, and you called him your son. So you who are not my daughter, I will call you my daughter. Moshe had 10 names. Would you like to hear them?
Yeah.
Okay. Chavar Yered
Heber.
Chaver. Yered Zonach, Avi Zonach, sorry. Avi Soko, Avi Gador, Ikusiel, Tubia, Shemaiah, Levi, and Moshe. My husband put it in for me. So
Next week there's a test.
there's no test. Akash Baruch Hu said to him, by your life, all the names that you were called, I will only call by the name that Basya Paro called you. This is from the Sanhedrin.
From Morris and his.
Yeah. Okay, so what do we learn from Basya? Anyone have any ideas?
Do the right thing.
Do the right
No matter
thing.
what. Take dangers, take the keep you and do his Shabbos for good things and help you and do the right thing.
So let's let's think about it. She wasn't even really Jewish, right? I mean, we can say there was no Jews yet, they didn't receive the Torah, but she wasn't part of the Jewish nation as far as we're aware, right? She was raised in Pharaoh's household. She raises above it. As you said, she did the right thing. So she's, think about it. Realistically, right? She was the daughter of the richest man in the world, basically. This man who enslaved an entire nation. And she still left. She still saw the surroundings she was surrounded by. She searched for the truth because she remembered the past according to Basya, right? We said that earlier, that she remembered Yaakov and Yosef and what they've done. Even if we don't follow Basya, she still saw the truth, which we see because she left Egypt when the Jews left. She didn't have to. She could have stayed behind. There was no reason for her to go, but she chose to leave with them because she was already living a life like a Jew, according to Rabbi Eliezer. And she married to Caleb. Again, this is
Did she have another name before that? Before she got that name?
before she got a Judea, Basya.
Before that?
No,
It doesn't
never
say.
mentioned. We assume that she did, but Hashem only ever calls her Basya. Okay, but think about this. How weird is this? Not only is Moshe now married to Basya's twin sister, so it's his adopted mother, but also his sister-in-law, Basya.
Basya. Okay.
It's his adopted mother, but she's also his sister-in-law by his wife. And now she's his sister's second wife.
Huh?
Second, wait a second. His sister Miriam.
Miriam is married to Caleb Ben Yehuda.
I see.
Caleb takes Basya as a second wife at some point in the story. Now he's related to her on both sides. Not only did she raise him, but now she's also his sister-in-law twice, basically. Like, how strange this must have been for him. I mean, come on. So we also see that she had tremendous kindness and mercy and willingness to do what's right by risking her life to save Moshe and raising him.
She takes the knife and she
Yes,
she
we're gonna-
understands. She takes the knife and doesn't risk me enough. And she
And we learn that we have to not only respect our parents, but it's such a curse to them. We learn more from the story of Moshe and Basya on the night of the 10th plague. But even throughout the plague, she made sure that she was never affected by them. Okay? Like, and Basya made a snap judgment on Moshe. You're letting this evil affect me. And she was wrong. So we learn not to make snap judgments. We have to take time and think before we speak and go out and do something.
She still went straight to
Yes,
God. Didn't
absolutely. She is a very righteous woman. She is a Tzaddikus, and she deserves that.
not blamed for immediate reaction.
No.
The immediate reaction, because then she immediately took the Musar from her.
Right.
She did take the
She was
Musar.
afraid for her life, right?
Yeah.
It was,
She didn't do anything wrong. It's just something that we should also keep in mind, that we should try and be careful when we're
Racha says a
reacting.
lot, and she's doing this, first, you're not, but then immediately you have what you're supposed to do,
Yeah.
it's, the other opposite example.
Comments?
That was very good. That was really interesting. So much.